guys, welcome to the Hitting the Curbs podcast. We got an emergency episode for you guys. Breaking news out of the NASCAR camp. Justin Haley goes for a multi-year deal to Rick Ware Racing. Joining us is Hector Garcia and Eddie Kalegi, part of Motorsports today. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing good. I'm just kind of caught off guard by this news. I did not see Haley leaving Kaulig.
He's been with them his whole career. And it's just, everyone thought he would just resign and that would be it. Leaf Filter now has a fully funded car. Who's going to get it? You got guys like Chandler Smith, Daniel Hemrick in their Xfinity program. Some are saying Zane Smith, who had a one race in the 11, subbing for Justin Haley when he had COVID. So many options. But Eddie, what do you think is the top three options for Kaulig Racing heading to the offseason?
Yeah, so the whole thing here, I'm just kind of surprised by what went down. I had heard from a source a few weeks ago that told me that this silly season was going to be crazy. And I thought, well, maybe there'll be a couple of stories. And he said, no, there's going to be things that are going to happen that you're not going to see coming. And clearly from what's been coming out today, this has been months in the works. So this wasn't necessarily a result of the whole beef that happened at Atlanta. Maybe that was the final straw. But to me, I'm just shocked that this happened. Something to remember with Justin Haley, too. You mentioned Leaf Filter. He doesn't really carry any big sponsors himself. His two big sponsors were the Eagles Group and Leaf Filter, but those have gone with other drivers. Leaf Filter was with Kaulig before he came, and the Eagles are with Spire now. So that doesn't really have any effect here. Looking for Kaulig themselves, again, it's weird because it almost seemed like they started their Cup program full-time 2 years ago to give Justin Haley a full-time Cup ride. So they have Allmendinger. I think Austin Hill is a serious possibility here to get that chance. He's already in the Chevy camp. We've seen him move between teams a couple of times before, and I don't really know if there's a path for him for RCR right now because Kyle Busch is going to be there for a few years, and they're just not going to get rid of Austin Dillon. So that's a main possibility. Chandler Smith, I think they're going to consider, but at the same time, I would not rush him. I think he needs a couple more years of development. Daniel Hemrick's already had a full-time Cup Series chance and really struggled with it. I don't really think he deserves it, but he's a possibility. And then, of course, Shane Van Gisbergen wants that full-time Cup ride. Teams have been offering it to him. Maybe Kaulig is one of those teams that have done that, and maybe that's why Justin Haley kind of got forced out of a ride. Maybe that's the possibility. I think those are the four real candidates. If I had to put my prediction, I'd say Austin Hill right now, but I think any of those four could end up happening.
I like the thought about Austin Hill. Yeah, I find it interesting that, RCR is opening the 33 for Gasecki, but not Hill, and Hill's just been with Beard Motorsports the whole year. Well, what are your thoughts, Hector? Who do you think's going to be in the ride?
Like Eddie said, there's a lot of names that are being thrown around, and there's a lot of possibilities. Chandler Smith, if that was a thing, he'd be rushed. Basically, he only has 1 year so far, but yes, he does have potential, and I could see him in the future being at Kaulig, but not right now. Another name being Shane Van Gisbergen, but I just don't see him leaving the Trackhouse camp. They have given him everything that he needs and everything that he could want right now. Austin Hill is the main target. And earlier today, someone said Noah Gragson, but obviously he's already signed for next year. But I believe that Austin Hill will take the number 31 car next season because he's just the most viable option. RCR is not giving him what he needs and what he deserves, rightfully. So he's gonna go find a ride somewhere else where they actually value his talent.
I do like your thought about that. I have an underdog scenario that I don't think anyone's looking at. You got to go with the Junior Motorsports camp right now. I think it's Sam Mayer. I feel like Sam Mayer has. I'm not sure if Accelerate is a Junior Motorsports sponsor or a Sam Mayer sponsorship. Sam Mayer has shown promise, and I feel like if you're really looking at Xfinity Series prospects right now, Sam Mayer is one guy to say, well, he could be Cup Series ready. He has, if I'm not mistaken, made a couple starts with Spire Motorsports in the Cup Series. But I think that's one of your guys. Like you both said, Austin Hill. RCR and Kaulig are on the RCR campus with each other, so that again will work out. And Austin Hill does carry Bennett for his own personal sponsorship. So I think Sam Mayer could be it. Daniel Hemrick might be the best option here, although he hasn't shown as good of a season as Chandler Smith. He does have the Cup Series experience that many of these guys are lacking when we're talking about who's going to get the 31.
One other person I just want to put out there, I could see them going the Sam Mayer route too. He hasn't made any Cup starts yet, but we've seen Kaulig and Chevy in general rush people to the Cup Series a lot in recent years, so I would not be shocked by that. I'd look at Todd Gilliland as a possibility to get out of the Ford camp too, because if Eric Almirola does not retire, and again, Eric Almirola said he was going to retire last year and then he didn't. He might just keep saying he's going to retire and then keep coming back. I wouldn't be shocked. He just seems to be indecisive about that. If he decides to stay, and then there's no place to put one of the front row guys, and they're going to want to keep Zane Smith in the Ford camp. And we've already seen they favor Zane Smith over Todd Gilliland over at Front Row Motorsports. They were perfectly fine with booting Todd Gilliland from his full-time ride for 6 races to get Zane Smith some Cup experience with the team. So Todd Gilliland's already gotten away from Toyota and gone to Ford when he didn't see a pathway there. Maybe he'll make the same decision here and go to race for Kaulig, because he's been pretty good in the Cup Series for the last 2 years. So I think that could be a dark horse consideration too. I think that hinges on what happens with Eric Almirola.
And it's funny to think that Eric Almirola is holding kind of the silly season in balance at the moment. Whatever Eric Almirola does will just flip a silly season on its head. If he stays, again, like you said, one of the front row guys has to go. If he goes, who is going to get that 10? And will SHR find funding for that 10? That 10 could be, in my eyes, I'm seeing the best option is Riley Herbst, purely just off of the sponsorship he brings. I don't think he should get the 10, but again, silly season is just packed up. And if you told me this 2 weeks ago, I would not believe you after what Justin Haley did at the Chicago Street Course race, getting his best finish of the season, a second place finish. But before we end it off, any more thoughts on not what this could mean, for Rick Ware, their alliance with Roush, and will Kaulig be on the down or up because of this move?
Well, here's the deal with Rick Ware Racing. As much as a lot of people might not like their business tactics, them as a team holding up backmarker cars for all these years, and of course, Cody Ware, Rick Ware's done a pretty good job, I think, strategically setting himself up for this opportunity, because you think about when they started out, they had 2 cars. They expanded to 3 or 4 so they could get some more money. Then they sold off those charters. They lost some of them, but they sold them off too. So that was more money coming that way. They went down to the 2 cars. Then they were in a bit of a pickle around 2020, 2021, because remember, if you finish outside the top 33 3 straight years, your charter automatically gets put up for sale. So what do? They get their alliance with Stuart Haas, and they bring in guys like Ryan Preece and David Reagan to run that 15 car and get some representative finishes to get that off of that bottom part. And now you have the 15 there, and Justin Haley's probably going to be in that car. And from what the indications are seeming like, they might go down to a 1-car team. But with the connections they have and the funding, I think they've played their cards pretty well, all things considered. And I don't think this is going to be a horrible move for Justin Haley. It just really doesn't make sense with the timing, because you would have thought that things were going well with him at Kaulig. And again, that's the only team he's been with ever since he got to the Xfinity Series in 2018.
And what are your thoughts, Hector?
I have to agree. I have to agree with Eddie. I said earlier, a theory that could now come to this whole ordeal is that Rick Ware sells a 51 car. They have no reason to keep that car with Cody Ware now being gone, and the 15 could be their main focus. And the money that they get from selling the 51 to a team like Trackhouse, for example, could help them fund that 15 and make it into a possible mid-pack car, because the 15 already this season has finished top 20, I believe twice or maybe 3 times. One of them being from Jenson Button, and you can tell they're better at like certain niche tracks. They're getting better slowly. So I do think that selling the 51 for a lot of money, because these charters are expensive, could help that 15 turn into a top 25, top 20 car in Sicily.
Well, all things considered, these, silly season is currently the craziest it has been in years. But for everyone listening and watching, these are just our quick thoughts on, what could happen in the future with the Justin Haley move to Rick Ware Racing. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Eddie, for hopping on. And do you kind of want to tell more about your show, Motorsports Today?
Yeah, for sure. We air on Fridays at the Rutgers radio station, WRSU. You can find it at WRSU.org, but every episode's also on Spotify after if you can't listen live on Fridays at noon. And yeah, it's a busy time because me, Adam Trapper, Tim Moore, we're going to Pocono this weekend, so we're going to have a lot of coverage of the whole race weekend. So we're heading up tomorrow morning, so you can check it out.